Hello ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another 3 levels video. This time this is going to be my 3 levels of gold farming. We're going to have a lot to cover. So whether you just want a little bit of gold to get you started, you want a good amount of gold that can get you going on some good trading, or in this one, if you want to go actually OP, that's where we're headed. But let's get to it. If you all have been around for these 3 levels videos before, then you know what we're going to get into. These are my 3 designs for farms. In this instance, we're going to be looking at gold. And so first up, we're going to be having an edit. Down in the video description will be the timestamps. And then after that, we'll be looking at each of the farms individually. We're also going to be looking at a couple of extra farms today. One's by the Glotz and Gnembon. Both have kindly given me permission to cover their farms in this video as well. So technically, it's going to be 5 farms in this video for the price of 1. 3 are by me. So again, in those 3, we're going for a quick and dirty one, a getting an upgrade one that is still single player friendly and doesn't use any quote unquote exploits, and then normally go for approaching OP. But this one right here, this sign, in my opinion, is actually OP this time. But we'll see those numbers in a bit. Down in the video description will also be a world download of this world with these 3 designs on it that you can find. If you want to see Glotz's or Gnembon's designs, by all means, please click on that link down in the video description. Check out their videos. Drop them a thumbs up. They've provided some great content for me, and they were kind enough to allow me to include this in. So would really appreciate it if you show them some love as well. But let's first get into the edit, and then we're going to be talking about the mechanics of gold farming. So there you go. If the thumbnail didn't already spoil it for you, 87.3 thousand gold ingots per hour, 1 million gold blocks in 4 days. It's pretty dang good. So we'll go over that farm and some of the other things I tried to get to that point at the end of the video. Before that, right in between version 2 and 3, we're going to be looking at the versions by Glotz and Gnembon. But let's start out by talking about gold farming mechanics. So we'll get into that. Again, if you want to skip all that, down in the video description will be links to the timestamps of where we'll be going over each of the versions. First, what are our options to obtain gold? So we can mine gold in the overworld. It is more frequently found in Badlands, but it can be found in any biome in the overworld through mining. You can also find it in the Nether as nether gold ore. You can find some gold blocks in ocean monuments. You can find gold as either gilded blackstone or as a loot table item in some of the chests in bastions. or you can get it from these guys right here. So on death, a zombified piglin has a chance to drop 1 to 0 golden nuggets when it dies. If it's killed by a player, it also has a 2.5% chance to drop a gold ingot. And if it's killed by a player with looting 3, then it drops 0 to 4 gold nuggets. And it also has a 5.5% chance to drop a gold ingot. Because quarries take a long time to set up, and because ocean monument raiding takes a long time, and because finding bastions once again takes a long time and is dangerous, zombified piglins are going to be our easiest method to get gold. Now, what do you need gold for? That's what we got this over here. So you can make gold armor so that piglins won't get mad at you. You make golden carrots, golden apples for your survival. You can use them for building beacons because they work as a block for beacons, and the ingots work to activate beacons. You can use them for pressure plates and the lightweighted pressure plates for specific scenarios in either redstone or spawn proofing. Powered rails, you can make them with that, which once again, great for redstone. You can use the blocks just for deco. You can also use them in the crafting of netherite ingots, or their possibly most important application, trading with these guys. If you didn't know, if you toss a piece of gold on the ground by a piglin, it will pick it up, inspect it, and then decide to barter with you based on the bartering table that they have. So you'll get random items from the bartering table once they're done inspecting it. Here we have all the things that a piglin can drop when it's done with its bartering process. We have things like soul sand, gravel, black stone, all of which are obtainable easily in survival. However, they do require some grinding to attain. Whereas if you set up a piglin bartering farm, you can just throw gold at them and turn it into that. Other more difficult things to find, like if you're not using any sort of obsidian farm, you can get obsidian or crying obsidian from these guys. Crying obsidian, great way to get it. It's nice because it has a light level and is also an immovable and unsticky block, so great for certain applications in slimestone where you need a non-sticky, non-movable block, but you need to spawn-proof it somehow. Crying obsidian is self-spawn-proofed. Also a great way to farm quartz. You need quartz for a lot of redstone contraptions with comparators and observers, and so you can get that from there. And this is also the only way to get the soul speed enchantment through bartering with them. But back to the focus of this video, we're focusing on farming zombified piglins for their gold. Zombified piglins will spawn in the nether, specifically within the bounding box of the fortress, within the nether waste biome, and then they also have a chance to spawn in the crimson biome. You'll see them spawning most frequently in the nether waste because the only other things that can spawn are the piglins and the ghast already have such a low chance to spawn, and they have a higher percentage to spawn zombified piglins than the regular piglins. And then also in the crimson forest biome, they actually have a reduced will to spawn, so there's going to be a lower chance that they're going to have a successful spawn attempt. Zombified piglins cannot spawn on the warp blocks. So I'll put down some warp blocks, put a carpet there, and we can see they have a will of 0% on top of there. You can also see here that in the nether waste biomes, there are also magma cubes and endermen that spawn that will come into effect when you're building your farms. However, in your normal generation, normal world generation, you're not going to run across them a lot because they have such reduced chances. However, zombified piglins can spawn on things like magma, because we can see they do not take any fire damage. And as of 1.16, mobs can only spawn on blocks that will not cause them to take a damage upon initially spawning. They can also spawn in light level 11 or lower. So if I put down a torch here, we got 11. There we see it can spawn. 12 cannot spawn. This is really nice because a portal has a light level of 11. So we can see it right there. So they can spawn even inside of portals, and we can use that to our advantage, which we will be doing in version number 3. And in version number 2, it doesn't slow down spawning at all because they can spawn right up inside of there. The other nice thing about farming zombified piglins is they do not aggro you unless you do something to damage either them or their friends. So right now I could just stand in between these guys, but as soon as I attack one, then everyone in the area comes charging. So they actually send out a warning signal and bring other guys towards them. So we can see other guys are joining the fight. There are farms such as Ilmango's donut farm, or what it's been commonly referred to as his donut farm, that use this mechanic of the zombified piglin aggro. to be able to passively kill them while still counting as player kills, because when they are in this aggravated state, they are aggroed onto the player, so even if they die from fall damage, they are going to count as a player kill. Just like regular zombies, zombified piglins are also attracted to the idea of stepping on turtle eggs. So if they can find a turtle egg in their vicinity, they will want to walk over to it and jump on it so they can crush it. We will be using turtle eggs in all the farm designs that we'll be doing today, so you will need to get your hands on some turtle eggs, which does require you to get Silk Touch. But the designs we're going to be looking at today are also going to require some enchantments on your sword, because we are going to be using looting options for all of these to increase our drop rates with less building effort or less time, and so that's kind of pretty much bundled into there. If you want some more information on zombified piglins and actually programming inside the game, definitely check out that Gnembon video down in the description. He goes through a lot of details about the coding of how the zombified piglin work. There is also a random chance for a zombified piglin to spawn in a portal block in the overworld. However, the farms using this mechanic are giant obsidian boxes with giant portals that, in my opinion, and I think many others' opinion, work better as an XP farm than an actual gold farm. So now that we've got all that said, let's check out version 1, Quick and Dirty. This is version 1, the Quick and Dirty. So what we have here is we have a ring of magma blocks and a turtle egg in the center that the pigmen are attracted to. This ring has a radius of 24 blocks so that they reliably have pathfinding, but then we also have as large of an area as we can that they can spawn in. We have these bottom half slabs up here that are spawn proofed so that we only have a 2 high area so that ghasts and magma cubes can't spawn, because magma cubes need a 3x3 area in order to spawn. We can restrict it down to just zombified piglins, again, because the magma piglins can't spawn on. So unfortunately, if you were to make this platform out of cobblestone or dirt instead of the actual magma blocks here, you would get piglins spawning. Piglins are not attracted to turtle eggs, so they will all just stay up here on this platform. And where the player stands, down here at the killing chamber, they are not far enough away for those piglins to be able to despawn. So we take a sword that has looting and mending on it, and then we can just stand here. You are going to need to either get up a beacon here or occasionally stop to eat. So this is not AFKable as it is in the world download. If you wanted to make it AFKable, you can either put a beacon up for regen, or you can drop down this block right here, a few more blocks, move down the storage system, and then they're all going to die from fall damage. You aren't going to get those same drop rates that you are with looting, but you would still get gold. Because of the speed that items drop out in this farm, we have 2 hopper minecarts that can cover that block right there that are going over 3 chests so that we can keep up with the speed of it. So this does not have any sorting on it. This is just going to lump everything together in the same chests. All the farms today are not going to be including any of the golden swords. You can smelt down these golden swords into golden nuggets. However, in my opinion, the item collection, the furnace array, the fuel for the furnace array makes it really not worth it for that extra little bit of gold. So if you're in the early game and you're out there killing zombified piglins by yourself, then maybe it's worth it. But in farming cases, I don't think it is. This is built so that the top of the farm is at build limit, so Y255, so it is above the nether roof. And we are going to have a little bit of area below that bedrock that is within that despawn sphere. However, usually up at this height, you've only got 1 or 2 caves, and if you can find yourself a good spot that doesn't have any caves, check your seed in a creative world download, something like that, then you need to do 0 spawn proofing underneath. So for this farm, to get those rates that I calculated, I did 0 spawn proofing below the bedrock. If you need to know how to get above the bedrock and how you can make a hole in the bedrock, then you can check out the video on my YouTube channel, or there are YouTube videos all over the place that tell you how to get above bedrock. There's a few different methods. I prefer the ladder and ender pearl trick, so that's what's in my video, but you can do your own version, whatever you want. And then you put a portal up top and you're good to go. One of the things that's ideal for corralling the pigmen all into that one wide hole there is using either anvils or grindstones. to actually make this pathway down, and then they won't get bunched up as much. However, because we're going for as cheap as possible, we just have an extra pillar of dirt right here that sticks out, and that kind of gives them a little bit more room to be able to push each other down into that hole. You also want to make sure that you don't cover up your turtle egg. You might be tempted to do that because then your egg is safe from any wandering pigmen that you're worried about, but then the pigmen aren't going to be attracted to it. They need to think that they can jump on it to be attracted to it. So as soon as we uncover that and expose that to enough blocks for them to be able to jump on it, then they're going to start wanting to pathfind to it again. There are a couple of versions of non-nether roof gold farms that I've seen that use either snowballs or arrows to hit a zombified pigman and attract the other ones in the area to you, and you get them into a hole above a hopper and you kill them. In my opinion, it's just really not worth it, because right here we can see if I go into survival and throw a snowball at one, we can see how many actually get attracted to me. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, but that one's not getting to me, so 6. So in this case, I would have gotten a total of 6. And with them, without looting, dropping only an average of 0 to 1 nuggets, even with looting, a 0 to 4, so dropping an average of 2 nuggets, I could have just mined these 6 blocks, melted them down, and had 6 gold ingots. So this would be my preferred option for a quick and dirty farm. As we saw, 1.6 thousand ingots per hour after you craft the nuggets is still not bad by any means. You're not looking at a real basic farm. You could run this overnight or during the week on maybe a server that you're playing with friends, and you'll still have a good amount of gold at the end that you can craft up into ingots and use for bartering or whatever you want to use it for. If you are one of those players who doesn't want to use the bedrock roof, again, this is block game. This is your block game. Play how you want to play. But in my opinion, I just don't think anything you can do below the nether roof without doing spawn proofing and perimeters is going to be worth it. That's it for the quick and dirty version. Now let's check out the getting an upgrade version. So this part of the farm here is not very unique. However, I have tweaked it a bit. What we're using is rings of magma cubes with 2 blocks of air above them, so we're already spawn proofed against gas and magma blocks. And then those have turtle eggs at platforms inside of the portal stack, so that zombified piglins that spawn get attracted to the turtle eggs and try and walk right through the portal, but then they get teleported to the overworld. Normally then you would have some sort of drop chute that kills them from fall damage in the overworld, and you collect their drops that way. You can use this kill chamber. This is going to be in the world download. It's going to be right below the other overworld one, so just go through the portal and come down to sea level and you'll see it. I just think if you're going to put that much effort into this, you should get a little more drops out of it. So what we have here is a system to send them back to that same player in the nether and then kill them with looting. If you were on a server where you could have 2 players or you have carpet bots available, you can do this looting setup over in the overworld, and then this is going to get you better drops than we have here. But again, one of the goals for version 2 is that it's still single player friendly. So if you're playing on a hardcore world or just a single player world, or maybe a server where you don't have any friends, sorry about that, then you can still use this design in order to get those 11k gold drops per hour. So what we have is the pigmen spawning on those blocks, walking into the portals, then they get sent into the overworld, where they get put through a processing chamber, and they take a little bit of damage, not a lot, just a little bit, so that when they come back through the portal, they don't all immediately die on the first swing. Normally, you would want to kill them on the first swing to get rid of them as soon as possible. However, you notice that some of those pigmen are looking downwards before they come out of the portal. So any pigmen that get stuck inside that portal when they're coming through, they will get aggroed onto the player and want to run down faster instead of having to wait to get pushed out. So even though you're increasing the lifetime of those ones that are taking 2 hits to kill, you're reducing the average lifetime of those ones that would get pushed to the backside of the portal and then get stuck there because they couldn't fall out. We do have both a regen and a haste beacon here so that the player or the bot can attack every 11 game ticks. So whatever auto clicker you're using, if you're using an auto clicker, then make sure it's every 11 game ticks. If you're not using an auto clicker at those 11 game ticks, because we're sending these guys back to the nether, they are going to count towards the mob cap. So you are going to get a reduction in your drop rate. And then because we have items that are being dropped in the nether, we just have the item collection in the nether using a slime block pusher over hoppers. That way we don't have to send them back to the overworld again and then do another system in the overworld where once again we've got more MSPT going on in the overworld. You can see the MSPT here already is not great. So again, in a single player, you probably don't really care about it. It's down below 30 consistently, so it's not something where it's going to cause lag, but in a single player world, you're here, you're not elsewhere doing something else. And the reason for that lag can be seen right here with the number of collisions that we have going on with these pigmen. So we need to get the pigmen to take a little bit of drop damage so that they die faster, and then we also need to get them moved over from this XZ coordinate over to this XZ coordinate so that they can properly appear up in the top portal where the player is instead of appearing back where they are. And then we also need to not get them over there too fast, so we're not using slime block pushers because they actually need to go through their portal cooldown. They just came through this portal, and so they need to be outside of a portal for 10 seconds before they can go back into this portal. Now, I said before that the idea of these rings of magma going into portals is not the most unique. I've seen it on other videos. However, the layout of the magma that I saw actually caused some problems, at least with the design that I was working on. So those had much larger platforms on them. One, that's going to take more magma blocks that you have to mine up. And you're already looking at, I think it's about 9,000 magma blocks here to do this. But this also increases the amount of time that it takes for the pigmen to get to the portal. So they have more time in the nether that they're taking up the mob cap. And as you can see, they're not in the biggest hurry to get over there. So they kind of casually walk over. So I did a bunch of testing, and rings this size were what got me 40,000 spawns per hour of zombified piglins. One block smaller on the rings was about 38,000, and one block wider on the rings was about 38,500. So that's why we went with this shape of spawning platforms. We also have a spawning skirt up here that goes out by 20 blocks in all directions just to raise the height map up to that top platform. This is something you could also add to that version 1 of the farm. However, I just didn't include it in that because we were going for the quickest and cheapest version possible. So there's still some upgrades you can do to that version 1. If you add some upgrades onto that, I would love to hear about those down in the comments. But this is something that we just added onto this one because in this case, we wanted to make sure that we were getting as much as we could out of those platforms. And so we're bringing in some pack spawns onto these. We can see there was one on the edge, so there's a chance that that one was a pack spawn. So it does make a difference putting on that pack spawning skirt up at the top spawning layer. This is using the same kind of sweeping edge killing chamber we've used on a bunch of other designs where you have a armor stand that gets spit out in front of the player there, and then you have a complete block of items and mobs from the player, and the player is actually attacking the armor stand, and then sweeping edge gets applied to everything else. I've recently learned from Glotz that actually Lumberwan was the one who showed him this design, so big thanks to Lumberwan for this. I love it, and I've been using it all the time. And instead of having the items fall into a water stream, we have them falling onto these slime block and glass pushers, getting aligned on this line of chests. And I included the line of chests all the way down because some items were getting stuck on their way down. So we just have that to make sure that they stay aligned. And then they're aligned on top of the hoppers and get sucked up by the item sorters. You can see here, I'm not saving any of the rotten flesh, the golden swords. If you wanted to put some overflow chests or something like that, replace this packed ice with blue ice and you can go much further out. And then you could also just put, filters for the rotten flesh or just some unsorted overflow chests, whatever you wanted. So that's version 2 of my farm. I now want to take a moment to go over Glotz and Gnembon's designs because they carry some significant advantages for what they offer. That's not to say I don't recommend using this design. It's just Glotz's design is going to have much higher rates, and then Gnembon's design is going to be significantly easier to build, both on build effort and resources required. And both of those things should be taken into account when you're working on something. Maybe you don't have time to dedicate to Minecraft all the time. There's nothing wrong with that, and you're looking for something that you can get up quick. Gnembon's farm is going to be great for that. You're still going to get awesome rates, but you're not going to have to do as much material gathering and build effort. Maybe you're someone who you have specific requirements of you're on a server with no bedrock breaking. You can go above the bedrock roof, but you can't break bedrock. Then Glotz is going to be the way to go for you. So I want to make sure I review those before we get to version 3 because they're both good and viable options depending on the scenario that you're in. This is Gnembon's design. You can see it's significantly smaller, especially on the size of the magma platforms and the number of magma platforms. So you need to do a lot less material gathering for that. You're not sending anything to the overworld. It's all staying inside the nether, so it's much better on the MSPT. As we can see here, we're at 12 in this case. So if you're on a server where your server owners are concerned with the MSPT of farms, maybe this is something to consider. And item collection is still, once again, all in the nether using this pusher system on a clock right here. The disadvantage of this farm is you can see how much of that despawn sphere goes down into the bedrock. You can see how close the player killing chamber actually is to the bedrock. And so there's all this area down inside the nether that needs to be spawn proofed. Gnembon goes through a few ways that you can do that using, just adding some fire in here in order to make that easier. Otherwise, you could do it in most places with torches. Just remember that ghasts are going to ignore that. But if you have the bedrock roof in your way, you're not really concerned about that. Without spawn proofing, though, and this is one of the common issues I've seen on, for example, Reddit when people build Gnembon's farm and then say, why isn't it working, is most of your mobs are going to spawn below the nether ceiling and you're not going to get that many drops coming in. Once you get that spawn proofing in, though, those drops are going to be considerably faster and your item flow rate is going to be much better. So again, check out that video in the video description for more info on this design. And another one that I wanted to cover is a design by the Glotz. This is his staggered portal design, and he says it in his own video, and I agree. It's a little overpowered because, like we said, pigmen can spawn in portals. So if we just stagger the portals like he's done here, you can see a little quieter down here in this offset, then magma cubes can't spawn in there. Gas already can't spawn because of the size of the portal, but each one of these bottoms of the portal blocks gives another spawning space for the pigmen. So this doesn't require any spawn proofing because all you do is build it above the nether roof and then AFK up here so that you're up near the top of the world. And then you have a killing chamber in the overworld. I'm not going to show that here. If you want to see that, go check out the Glotz video. But using looting on this after nugget crafting can get you 40,000 ingots per hour. That's pretty crazy for the amount of effort that goes into this. You do need to have an obsidian farm, and you do need to have a player willing to build all these staggered portals because going through each one of these and lighting them up, pain in the butt. But once you've built it, you run it, you have the 40k gold per hour, you have XP coming out. So if you were to set it up with a bot in the killing chamber, other players can just come stand behind the bot and steal the XP and then go off and do their thing. And it's super simple. In order to get those rates, you do need to be either on a server where you can have two players, one in the nether here to load the mobs and one in the overworld, and he goes over that in the video, or you need to change up his killing chamber in order to kill them using fall damage, but then you're not going to get the same rates that he describes. So this is one of those things where even though it's portal spam, there was a little bit of a change to this portal spam and the overworld setup. The amount of effort required in that, you are going to need a shulker box loader, so you are going to need a shulker farm, but still, both of us would classify this as overpowered. Now we're going to take a look at version 3 of my gold farms. This one, I know it says approaching OP, but let's face it, it's actually OP. So let's check this one out. At first glance, this looks exactly like Glotz's farm, except it's yellow, and you're mostly right. However, what we've done is we've extended it here. So we're actually going below the bedrock into a perimeter. If you don't want to go through the effort of building a perimeter, you can just do spawn proofing. And if you are on a server that doesn't allow bedrock breaking, you can just leave out the portals here that go through the bedrock and just build the rest of them. And you're not going to cut into the rates too much. As long as you're able to hit every spawnable space inside this area, the 120 block radius around this AFK spot, and you don't leave any caves, just those missing portals are not going to cut into your rates that much. You're probably still looking at about 80,000 gold ingots per hour. However, it does still require 2 players because it requires 1 player in the nether and 1 player in the overworld to operate. We'll look in the overworld in just a second. I'm not going to go too much in detail about the staggered portals. Again, check out Glotz's video for more details on that. But I do want to talk about another design that I tried, because a lot of people would see this stack of portal spam and think, nah, just do Y0 portals. The problem with the Y0 portals is, and even in this case, you can see we didn't even do them at Y0, is magma cubes and ghasts. So they're going to spawn in here, and then you also need to account for them in both your kill chamber and the spawning space and mob caps that they're taking up. So in this instance here, we've cut off gas and magma cubes by putting walls into the ground, but then we had to move the portals up by 1 level. So now we're up there again. And below that, we would just have a bunch of the babies that spawn just running around. Not to mention there would also be baby piglins running around. So the mob cap is going to get taken up by a significant amount. And if I go back into hard mode and let that start spawning, we can see that, yes, we are getting a bunch of spawns down there, but there, we can already see that there's some babies that are running out. And here we already have the mob cap almost filled with all these babies that are running around because they're not touching the portals. If you move these down by 1 so that the portals are at Y1, and then you just have your obsidian layer down there, then you have gas and magma cubes spawning because light doesn't affect them either. Then you need to put a layer on top above the portals to stop them from spawning, but now you're actually raising up the height map. So in the end, after the test that we did with the portal spam version versus the Y0 version, the Y0 was just not worth it. You know, there are ways that we can get rid of those babies by bringing out some extra bedrock and using turtle eggs to drag them into the void. But the number of spawning spaces that you lose, or the amount that you have to raise the height map up, makes it no longer a Y0 or have enough spawning spaces. We can see here there's a significant amount of walls taking up spawning space. Whereas here, even though we're raising the height map, we have everything except this line of obsidian is a spawnable space inside every X and Z coordinate. There are available spawnable spaces in those. I'd heard someone talking about a possible EOL farm down at Y0 that will do some different things there. EOL, personally for me, is not really something that I'm going to develop with, simply because almost all tech servers these days are playing with the Starlight mod for performance, and Starlight completely negates EOL as a thing. So if that's something you want to look into, again, I'm not going to be the place for that, but this is what I have designed. And a big thanks to Glotz for letting me use this to build off of, and for giving me some tips and tricks along the way. But where the real challenge of this version came in was actually in the overworld. If you've already checked out Glotz's video, this is going to look very familiar here. These are literally the same item sorters and box loaders, just extended out to handle the increased rates. And the drop chute looks similar. However, we've made some changes. So in Glotz's video, he was able to get away with just having one unsliced portal and having them come out one side and then drop down to the player. Unfortunately here, with 369,000 pigmen per hour, the lag that was caused by having them all come out of the same portal, or even putting the portal in the middle and opening up both sides and having them collide on those sides, was significant. So we were at about 55 to 75 MSPT when we just had the single portal, or we had bottomed portals. So you do need to slice the bottom of these portals, because then they don't start colliding and pushing each other around when they spawn in there. But that means that we have 2 drop chutes that we need to hit. You could just say, okay, well, you load 1 carpet bot on this side and you load 1 carpet bot on that side and have them both start attacking, and you're good to go. Technically, you're not wrong, but farms that use multiple kill chambers, for me to design, just are not fun. I know there are people out there that say even the portal spam that we have in the nether is not fun. And, you know, on the one hand, you're right, but on the other hand, we're going for the highest rates that we can get here. We're not looking for what's the most fun to build. So if you want to scrap this system and you want to just do multiple bots in the killing chamber, by all means. But at that point, to me, it kind of feels like, well, why not just, instead of doing a perimeter, why not build Glotz's gold farm a couple of times and then just have multiple bots at each of those, and then you get the same rates. You don't have to do the perimeter, you don't have to do any bedrock breaking, any of that. So I wanted to find a way to get everything that was just 2 players, 1 bot in the nether, and then player in the overworld killing them. In this instance, though, because of frame rates, I do recommend that the player be in the nether and the bot be in the overworld, and we'll see why in just a minute. But before that, we'll just continue going through this. So they drop down into 2 separate drop chutes, and then we have an armor stand in the center, so they still get attacked by Sweeping Edge. And we have the player or bot stands down in this water stream up next to this end rod, looks up at the armor stand right here, and swings at the armor stand. This will allow the items to come through and the XP to reach the bot or player. Unfortunately, though, it's way too much XP. So if you were to leave this running for more than an hour, you would start to have everything once again backing up with all the lag that the extra XP balls were going to take up. In Glotz's farm, using the kill chamber from Lumber One, it's easily handled by them going through lava, and so you don't have any spare XP balls. But in this case, they're coming out the same place that the items were coming out. So if we burn the XP balls, we were going to burn the items. Then Jor gave me a great idea. You notice this block right here looks a little funny. That is a piston without its piston head. What this allows you to do is push items through, but not let XP through. So if I was to drop an item right next to it, you can see that can go right underneath that piston headless piston. But if I chuck some XP down there, you'll see that it can't get through. And that's because of the hitbox size. So if I turn on the hitbox for that gold, we can see that's just short enough to be able to fit under there, but the hitbox for the XP is too tall. So we use this so we can push the items through underneath the pistonless piston head. Piston headless piston. The piston, this thing. But we don't let the XP through so that we can then burn the XP. We do that by these trapdoors on the sides are pushing all the items to the center, and then the center trapdoor is pushing them through the piston, and then occasionally we release just a real quick bit of lava to burn those XP balls. I'm doing that using this variable signal counter that I actually have a video of on my YouTube channel, so if you want to see that, check that out. But every 60 times that we kick those off, we're then going to kick off the lava right in between. We gave it just the right delay so that it spits out and pulls back real quick. I think it's 6 game ticks that it's there. So there is a small chance that some of the items are going to get into there if the bot is swinging right at the time in its 11 game ticks when the lava is coming out. So it's not completely lossless with this, but the amount of XP balls that build up from this is absolutely ridiculous. I'm talking like hundreds and hundreds that are just left behind if they're not somehow handled. Again, I want to thank Jor of the SciCraft crew for teaching me this trick. This does still work in 1.18. So right now I am in 1.18 here and doing this. What you're going to do is you're going to put a downwards facing piston, and this is the piston that you want to be headless. You're going to put some endstone around it. We're using endstone for its blast resistance because we are going to blow this up. Get yourself a couple pieces of redstone dust on top on that side. Face a piston facing downward on that side. Put a piece of obsidian there, and then put a block next to it and light it. We're then going to get rid of the obsidian. And then when I press this lever, what's going to happen is both this piston and this piston are going to push down at the same time. This piston pushing it with the fire next to it is going to blow it up. And that explosion, because it's happening at just the right tick, is going to remove this head, but not this block. So I'll do this. I can't show this in slow-mo because it happens within the same tick, but we'll do it real quick here. You can see now I'm left with that headless piston there. And as long as we keep it powered, okay, so by putting that up there, it's powered via quasi connectivity. No matter what updates I do around it, it's going to not try and retract and regain its head. If I do unpower that though and give it an update, we're going to bring that back. So when you're building this, because it's in the middle of that chamber, make sure that you get that redstone block down and then do not remove that redstone block, and then you'll be fine. So I'm going to show you how you would get into place for this. So you would come, grab your sword, come up through the scaffolding, open the trapdoor, go up through the trapdoor, and then close the trapdoor. Stand up against this end rod. The water is going to push you up against there. If you don't have an armor stand, you're going to need to click that note block right there. That's going to put our armor stand here. I'll go into survival here. We are again using a haste and regen beacon, and I've also added on a strength beacon. It's not really necessary, but at this point I figure you pretty much got beacons, so I just threw on a strength beacon. Now you'll have your armor stand in there in the way, and when you go into survival, I'm just going to go into my auto attack every 11 game ticks. And now with that armor stand in the center, I can attack these 3 blocks and these 3 blocks using the sweeping edge. But now you're ready to go. The system does have a tripwire in there, so it activates the pushers and everything based on when stuff is coming in. So let's just say now you have your friend going over to stand the AFK spot because now you're ready. And then let's get this started. Now, I never promised this would be easy on the FPS or easy on the client. The sheer amount of entities that we have here with the pigment coming down and the items coming through definitely takes a toll on it. So this is why I recommend that you be in the Nether. It's also not running very easily on the MSPT as well. We're under 50 MSPT, yes, so the game is running at normal speed. On the server that I was testing this on, we were actually running at about 40 MSPT. So on the client side, for most of your users doing single player stuff, unless you have a super beefy computer, this is going to run you more like this 49 MSPT. A server with decent hardware is going to run more like that 40 MSPT. And you can even see as soon as I look away from it, my FPS jumps up to 60. Well, it's dipping a little bit there. Now it's at 100, whatever. FPS goes way up, but as soon as I look back at these entities, yeah, we're back down to 10. It's a friggin' PowerPoint slideshow. But you can see the sheer amount of sorters that we need to actually keep up with this. But this will get you there. You know, maybe plan out your shulker farm to be close to this if gold is going to be your thing. This is overpowered. And we finally did it. We made it to overpowered. And again, you don't even need to do the full perimeter and break away the entire bedrock roof for this, because we are taking the height map all the way up to the top of this stack of portals here. And as long as you can spawn proof everything inside of this 128 block radius of the player here, then you don't need this perimeter. It's just doing that perimeter is going to be a lot easier to ensure that you get absolutely every cave, every little spot that you missed, you know, everything like that. So if you're going to be on a server with friends, consider doing that perimeter just to make sure that you really get that. Because even one mob that spawns out of here, we're talking about 369,000 spawns per hour, but it's based on removing them right when they spawn, not having them as fast as possible, moving towards a position to either kill them or remove them. As soon as they spawn, they're getting removed from that mob cap. So just a couple of them, just one little pack of them spawning in, you know, 4 pigmen spawning in a cave somewhere, sticking around for 20 seconds is still going to significantly drop your rates. So that's going to be it for this video. Once again, thank you to Glotz and Gnembon for allowing me to showcase their designs in this video. And thanks to Jor for the idea for the headless piston on this third farm. That was kind of becoming a pain, and it's one of the reasons that this video got delayed, because just trying to figure out a way to get rid of that XP without losing items was getting to be something that I was considering impossible. But when you play with Psycrafters, almost nothing's impossible. You just got to figure out a weird and messed up way to break the game. So that's going to be it for this video. Hope you enjoyed it. I'll catch you later. Have a good one. Bye.